Welcome to Bet the Edge on Thursday, April 14th. Thanks to everyone watching on our NBC Sports YouTube channel. Coming up, Drew and I sit down with SiriusXM NBA Radio, ESPN, and the Yes Network's very own Frank Isola to discuss tonight's two remaining playing games and this weekend's NBA playoff series. And as always, Drew and I will wrap the show with our best bets of the weekend. Drew, listen, we've been kind of lucky, kind of fortunate over the past couple of days to have sports, basketball. And then last night, I'm not an MLB guy. I didn't know what to do with myself. I kind of was a little bored. At one point, my fiance was like, "Are you not going to put the playoffs on?"
Yeah.
But how'd you fare last night betting?
I didn't bet anything. Took the wife out for dinner. Put the phone down. Wasn't looking at scores. Gave her the full attention because this weekend is going to be heavy duty NBA watching. I absolutely love the way they set up the schedule for the first weekend of the playoffs. The four back-to-backs on Saturday and Sunday it's just a delight. And honestly, the way that the series are set up this year, and just in general, the excitement about the NBA playoffs is at a level that I haven't felt in a couple seasons. So I am super, super fired up. And I have bets in the account for every single game on Saturday. And so far, both of the games we know about on Sunday. So I'm going to have a lot of action over the course of the weekend. A couple of series prices, one that I'm pretty heavily staked on that we can talk about. But overall, this is going to be a really fun round one of the playoffs.
Well, listen, I'm totally my mind is all discombobbled. It's Friday, the 15th. That's how confused and how messed up my brain is without NBA playoffs. But listen, all I look forward to this weekend is sitting down with an adult water and watching some good basketball. And a lot of that has to do with how great these play-in games have been. So let's bring in Frank Isola to talk about the two remaining play-in games in the rest of the NBA playoffs. Frank, thanks for joining us.
Good. How you guys doing? There were no games yesterday. What do you want? A 14-15 game? 12-13 game?
I mean, I like this year for the lot. Is it really fair to change the entire future of some franchise by the lottery, or should we have had some sort of a playoff between the teams at the bottom for the Wembanyama stakes? Because I mean, this is that's going to interrupt the playoffs to at some point, right? They do like the lottery right in the middle of the entirety of the playoffs, and certainly seems like that kid's going to change some franchise for the foreseeable future. So not a bad idea. Next year, let's fill this 14, Thursday 15, with a little 12,
13, 10, 11. 8,
I like
9.
this.
If you thought what the Mavericks did was bad, imagine if we had a play-in game for the number one seed. I mean, teams that are borderline 8 and 7 are going to tank just to try to, because they have a better shot of beating anybody who's going to be a true lottery team.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we have to have some integrity in the regular season. I always think if you're the number one seed and you want to do something where they get to pick their opponent in the first round, or how about if you finish 10 games better than any team that you face in the playoffs, maybe that team only gets 2 home games. Why should you you were the best team in your conference over the course of a season, and the reward is 1 extra playoff game? So the Bucks are going to play either Miami or they're going to play Chicago, and they had the great regular season, and it's worth only 1 extra home game. It doesn't seem like it's enough. I would give the lower seeded team, if you aren't within 10 games, they only get 2 home games.
Yeah, it hasn't broken this way, but there was definitely a time where it looked like the Nuggets might draw the likes of the Lakers or the Warriors in the 1-8, and it's like, how fair is that? You're bringing up a lot of fair points, and there's going to be a lot of interesting ways they can tweak the playoffs in the future. I'm glad they got rid of the division winner getting what was the division winner used to get the 3 seed? Like, can you imagine? You imagine if the Heat got all the way to the top 3 because they won the Southeast this year? Like, that would have been an absolute abomination. So they've done some impressive fixes, but we got a long way to go.
Let's get into the play-in game. You talked about it. Bulls at Heat. Heat 5.5 point favorite. Total set at 208.5. Frank, I want to get your take. What should we expect from this game? Both teams I don't know. The Heat came out as duds, and then the Bulls came out as duds. But after 18 missed free throws from the Raptors, they came back and they won. What are you expecting to see from this game?
It's funny. If you look at that game against Toronto's up 19. Like you mentioned, they missed 18 free throws. And Toronto's one of these teams, I think, going into the game they knew they were a dead team walking. It looks like Nick Nurse is probably going to be out as coach. There could be some change on the roster. And when, teams kind of have that vibe going into a playoff game or a play-in game, in this case, you wonder how that negatively impacts them, especially when they take a punch. And when Chicago mounted that comeback, Toronto kind of looked done. I wonder if Miami will be in a similar situation. Now, Eric Spoelstra's not going anywhere, and Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo will be on the team. But you kept waiting all season long for the Miami Heat to kind of be the Miami Heat. And there was a game in March that they played against the Brooklyn Nets where they were essentially playing for sixth place. They got outscored 39-18 in the third quarter of that game. They had a lead. They ended up getting blown out by the Brooklyn Nets. And to me, that was kind of telling of where this Miami Heat team is right now. Remember, too, Chicago has beaten them 3 times. And Zach LaVine is a guy that's lost a lot of games in his NBA career, but the way that he played the other night, that was pretty impressive. 30 points in that second half. I got a funny feeling tonight about Chicago that they might be able to hand it to the Miami Heat.
Okay, no disagreement. I think this is Bulls or pass if you're betting aside. The total down at 208.5. I mean, that's super duper low, but neither of these teams can buy a 3-point shot. So I get it. It should be low. And this is really, I think the most advantage play in this is probably going to be second half under. Like, this thing is going to grind to an absolute halt in the fourth quarter. I doubt that you see any kind of a wide open, score fest here late. So pretty much ready to blind bet a second half under here. One
other thing that I would watch out. One other thing I would watch out for, though, Jimmy Butler, who talks a lot. I don't start playing until after the All-Star break, and people get into this whole playoff Jimmy stuff. Now, I understand that was a playing game and the stats don't count. He should be very happy the stats don't count from that game. But I just, he's got a lot of pride, Jimmy Butler. That's the one variable. Everyone looks for X factors. A lot of times the X factors are the best players on the team. And Jimmy Butler is that for the Miami Heat. So it'll be interesting to see how he performs tonight.
Yeah, I have no doubt about it. I think the Bulls actually match up pretty well against him. I would expect his plan A, B, and C are all just get to the rim, though. So we'll see if that actually works. The other matchup is a very, very interesting one as well. My major takeaway from the OKC New Orleans Pelicans game was Mark Daigneault's got the goods. Like, he put on a coaching clinic in that game. I thought he really played he played it slow. He kind of, surprised the Pelicans in the first half. He kept all of his SGA ISO stuff in his back pocket for when they needed to make a run in the third quarter. And it was masterfully done. I would expect that he can coach circles around Finch. And I'm kind of surprised that they are this big of a dog here in a spot where, of course, they're on the road again. It's a quick turnaround. Maybe they've overachieved all season, but you give the Thunder a puncher's chance here?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that combination, the two Canadian, I know Toronto lost, but the Canadians are still alive. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort. And Lou Dort's an underrated player, and he's not even the most underrated player on his team. That's Jalen Williams, the Jalen Williams out of Santa Clara, who has been nothing short of a revelation this season for OKC. The one thing about the Thunder, and Josh Giddey's another guy, he put up big numbers the other night. That's a young, athletic team that could play different ways. They got a go-to guy late in the game. Minnesota blew that game against LA. They had that game, and then their offensive possessions, especially at the end of the fourth quarter and into overtime, were not good. I love Anthony Edwards. I loved his attitude after the game where he, took a lot of responsibility. He did not play well, but you just wonder about them. Naz Reid was an important player for Minnesota. He broke his wrist a couple of weeks ago, and then you had Jaden McDaniels doing something incredibly stupid, punching a wall and breaking his hand, so he's out. And then you have the Rudy Gobert factor. Now, Gobert claims that he would not have been able to play the other night against LA. I'm not buying that. He was suspended for that game. The only thing that I find interesting, would they have suspended any other player if it were the other way around and they had punched Rudy Gobert? I'm not exactly sure they would have done that, especially if it was somebody like Kyle Anderson or Karl Anthony Towns. So that's a fascinating game on a number of levels. How is the crowd going to respond to the team? How's the crowd going to respond to Rudy Gobert? But the one thing about OKC, and they got a certain way of doing things down there, and it starts with Sam Presti. They're very good at drafting players. They're very good at developing players. And, let's remember, this team's going to get Chet Holmgren next season. They're going to get another high pick. The future is bright for them, but the present right now, there's no reason why they can't go on the road and take out Minnesota and be playing on Sunday against the Denver Nuggets.
That is music to my ears, because just on Wednesday, I think Drew looked at me crazy when I said I am betting the Thunder plus 765 to make the playoffs. He thought I was a crazy man. But let's talk about the series that I think everyone is excited for. That's Knicks and Cavaliers. We'll talk about the first game. Knicks at Cavs. Cavs are 5.5-point favorite. Total set at 214. I want to get your thoughts on the series and this game as a standalone game.
I watched Cleveland real closely late in the season. They came to Brooklyn and they played 2 games over 3 nights. They were in town to play. They had a bunch of those games late in the season where they played the same team twice over 3 days. And both times in the fourth quarter, when they needed a guy to make a play, they put the ball in Donovan Mitchell's hands and he goes to work, or whether or not it's scoring, whether it's setting guys up. He had the play where he missed the free throw. And just like he did against Chicago, he was in the lane early and had a putback, or at least attempted putback, which still led to a basket by Cleveland. It was ruled that it should have been illegal. Donovan Mitchell makes plays. That's the thing I'm going to be worried about in this series from the New York Knicks standpoint. I don't know the health of Julius Randle. I know the way the Knicks are going to be. They're going to keep it secretive, which I think a lot of teams would do. We're not going to know it until we see him on Saturday night, what his mobility is like. And then Donovan Mitchell is a big factor. And we all know the storyline there that the Knicks tried to get him this summer. I think Donovan Mitchell believed that he was going to be traded to the Knicks. So that storyline is pretty fascinating. But for me, the big thing is, how big of an impact can Mitchell Robinson make, who didn't play a couple of years ago against Atlanta when Trae Young dominated that series? How will he play in this series, knowing that they need to control the lane against Jared Allen and Evan Mobley, because those guys, everyone loves to use the expression rim protectors. Well, Cleveland's got 2 of them.
Yeah, this one's a tough series for me because ultimately I think the Knicks have the right tools and more adjustments that they can go to. If they can make this a long series, I think they're live.
Yeah.
But early in the series, I think Cleveland pretty clearly has the advantage. I laid the 5.5 on Saturday. I think this should be more like a 6.5 point spread.
Even though the Knicks are a good road team?
Even though the Knicks are a good road team, it's just and I'm going to borrow this from a very smart, handicapper that I talked to. Evan Mobley was created in a lab, to specifically defend what the Knicks do with plan A, right? That said, Jalen Brunson, he played Donovan Mitchell to a win last year, pretty much head to head as that series kind of came down the stretch. So I feel like if the Knicks can protect home court in Game 3, Game 4, and make this, truly you have to go the distance to get through, I actually favor the Knicks here. So my approach really is I'm going to take the points and lay the points with Cavs in Game 1. Probably, depending on the adjustment, probably past Game 2. But if Knicks are down 0-2, I think that's the time you fire away on a series price. You might get them in like the 5-1 range if they're 0-2 at home, because as good as the Cavs are at home, they're a pretty poor road team. And, Donovan Mitchell, for whatever it's worth, like his defensive limitations can be exposed the later you get into a series. And while he is kind of the key to them offensively, and ultimately, like if they win one of the 2 at MSG, I would guess they probably get it done in 5. But, the further we go, the more I'm going to like Knicks in that series. But, hopefully it's a fun one. Let's move to the Sixers and the Nets and the Celtics and Hawks. I'm just curious, between these 2 series, you would be more surprised if the favorite is given is in a fight between the Sixers or the Celtics.
Well, the Celtics have handled Atlanta pretty well. The one thing about Atlanta, they do have a lot of experience. They got an athletic team. They seem to rise to the occasion. I mean, look how well they played the other night in Miami. We do have something that we could draw on with the Sixers and the Nets. The Nets had all their guys together for the first time when they played the Sixers, which I believe would have been back after the All-Star break. And, the Nets had a chance to win that game. Mikal Bridges missed a makeable layup late. There was a controversial call that went against the Nets. It was ruled in the last 2-minute report it should have been a foul on James Harden. And that was the night when Embiid scored 37. So there's they have to control Embiid. Well, they should have won the game when Joel Embiid scored 37 points. And the Nets are better now. It's weird about the Nets the way we look at them. They had some great results. They came back, I think it was 28 down on the road at Boston. They won a game in Miami. They've had some really good results, yet they do have a losing record ever since they got rid of both Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. But they're in a lot of games, and Mikal Bridges really has played as well as anybody in the league since March 1st. I think the Nets could give them a series. I think the Nets could be hosting a Game 6, looking to even the series at 3 games apiece which I think would be a big accomplishment, a significant accomplishment for this group and that organization.
Well, let me follow up then. If it goes to a Game 7, can Doc Rivers shake the stink of his Game 7 issues?
Hey, come on. You wouldn't love to be in Philadelphia, knowing how uptight those fans are going to be. I mean, they already had their, the Phillies lost the World Series. They had a great run, but they lose the World Series. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, the Eagles, had a lead in the Super Bowl. They lose to the Chiefs, and now they're basketball team. And you guys know this. Embiid talks a lot about wanting to be the MVP, and he gets into this whole thing. Nobody likes me. Who doesn't like Joel Embiid? The guy's a very likable player. Like when he talks, he's kind of funny, but he's always moping. Nobody likes me. Nobody likes me. Well, guess what, dude? You're probably going to be MVP. Do you want that award handed to you at just some random press conference, or do you want it handed to you in the second round in front of your home fans? That'll be up for him to decide. But you're right. A Game 7 in Philadelphia, all bets are off for that one.
Okay, so let's transition over to the Bucks. Betting favorite to come out of the East. Are they your favorite to advance to the NBA Finals, or would you pick someone else like maybe the Celtics?
Well, you guys know this. Look at the history of the Bucks. It seems like they always lose Game 1 at home, and then they're fighting. They're fighting an uphill battle. They've had some weird games at home. They gave up a ton of points to Philadelphia. This was late in the season. Sure. They gave up. They got blown out by the Boston Celtics. Against Indiana, they gave up a ton of points. But, if they're right and you have, Chris Middleton can stay healthy, Drew Holiday is the guy that's really elevated his game. Brook Lopez is still playing for a contract. All things being equal, and they're a huge team, I still think they're the team to beat, because now the way that the schedule is going to break down, you guys know this, you get to the playoffs, guys like Chris Middleton, he doesn't have to worry about playing back-to-back. You get more time off. So he's been dealing with a lot. I still don't think his fitness is great. But the Milwaukee Bucks, the guy that drives that is the big Greek, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Just his will, his desire. He can carry that team on his back. For me, that's the team to beat in the Eastern Conference. I think the odds makers are right there.
Okay, I don't strongly disagree with the price. I would make it a little bit. I would make them a little longer, just because in a Celtics Bucks series, even with the Celtics on the road in that series, I would make them small favorite. But their path is tougher. They got to go through the Sixers, presumably. And the Bucks would get the winner of Cavs Knicks, which is, they're going to be minus 500, minus 800 or something like that in that series. So, Celtics have a little bit tougher road, but I would still give them the slight edge in the East. Still big questions though about the Celtics coaching. Need to see them kind of work their way through a tough series and really kind of prove something. The Brad, where do you fall? If you take one horse in the East, are you Celtics, Bucks, or Sixers?
So I'm a price guy. I got the Bucks a while ago at plus 300. I still think it's Bucks. I don't quite trust the Celtics yet. I don't know why. Like, they have all the tools. They play well defensively. Jason Tatum has seemingly taken that next step to absolute stardom. But I just think the defense of the Bucks, Giannis's length, Brook Lopez, ex-volleyball player, Brook Lopez, his ability to block shots. I think the Bucks have the upper hand here. I think the Bucks will probably have a little bit of an easier road to the finals, to the Eastern Conference Finals as well, which ultimately is going to be Bucks. But at plus 125, I honestly couldn't make a bet there. Yeah. I'd probably look more towards the 76ers just because of the price. In the long scheme of things, I don't want to take anybody at plus 125 to win the conference with this much talent up top. So you know what I do want to talk about, guys? I want to talk about the Roto-World app. It's easy. Download the Roto-World app to receive breaking player news all season long. Stay ahead of the competition by favoriting favorite players on your roster. Get the latest injury updates, player news, and much more delivered right to your phone. It's available in your app store today. Okay, the series that a lot of people are talking about, and a price that I think is absolutely absurd, with the Kings being plus 2. I think it's up to 35, plus 235 to win the series. Warriors and Kings, game 1. So we'll talk about it in a single game instant. The Kings are a 1-point favorite, total set at 238.5. What do you see happening here, Frank? Where would you put your money?
Sacramento's not a great defensive team. I think things seem to shape up pretty well for the Golden State Warriors. You've been waiting, all year for them to be in a good place. It seems like right now they are. Number one, they don't have to travel. It's a hop, skip, and a jump to Sacramento. Andrew Wiggins is back. He was their second best player in the NBA Finals last year. That's huge. We had a chance to talk to Steve Kerr yesterday, and he seemed pretty optimistic about where the team is. Jonathan Kuminga has played really well, and the schedule again, them getting through the regular season, getting the 6th seed, so they didn't have to play in this play-in tournament. Their last game was Sunday. Their first game is tomorrow. That's a lot of rest for a veteran team like that. I have a lot of respect for the job that Mike Brown has done with the Sacramento Kings, and Sabonis is terrific, De'Aaron Fox. And they do have some experienced players over there with Harrison Barnes, and their fans are insane. So the environment up there will be great. But to knock off a team like the Golden State Warriors, I don't know. I just don't see it. I think the Warriors will figure out a way to win. Teams like this, and it's not even about flicking on a switch. They needed to get all their guys back. But, they know how to play in moments like this. You talk about a team with a high IQ. Look at their core three with Steph, Draymond, and Clay. Those guys are as smart as they come. They got good role players. And Wiggins is the X factor for them. And Steve Kerr had said he's one of these guys. He's just a genetic freak. He didn't play basketball for a long time. He was out there practicing last week or this week. It didn't look like he didn't miss a beat. So they just look like they're right. And the bracket sets up nicely for them. I think Golden State's going to be a difficult team to knock out.
Yeah, no disagreement. That said, I do think the series goes 6.
Okay.
Some of and honestly, in this first game, you kind of hit a couple of key points, I think, for this one, which we'll circle back on the end of the show for best bet, Brad. Yeah, Sacramento is going to be insane. that place is going to be electric. And I think realistically, the Warriors kind of letting the series come to them a little bit. We'll take your best shot, let's get, because Wiggins needs some court time. Like that guy's going to get back in game shape. And I think realistically, you could see this kind of, a little bit of a slow start here for the Warriors before they ultimately flip the switch and come through in 6. I like a little Warriors 4-2, I think is a fun bet. And I guess just out of curiosity, Frank, do you have a read on why the Warriors were so underwhelming on the road this season?
I don't know. It was embarrassing at times. Now, there were also moments where, they were resting their guys. They were just, they were doing a lot of weird things. But this was a team, when you talk about the road, the first thing they did, they got on a plane and they went to Japan to play exhibition games there. And that probably takes a little something out of you, even in terms of practice time. And then when they got back, it was a couple of days later where, Draymond Green threw the punch at Jordan Poole. So the season just got off to a bad start. But it was embarrassing the way they performed on the road. But this. That'll be a road game, and the fans, it'll be a hostile environment. But a lot of people from San Francisco that are Warrior supporters will find their way to Sacramento. They'll buy the tickets. So the crowd will be it'll probably be 80-20, which won't be so bad for the Warriors. In fact, if you look at it, this is a weird one. I don't think it'll work out this way. But if they play the Lakers in the second round and then were to play the Clippers in the third round, they could actually play all 3 playoff series without leaving the state of California.
That's beautiful.
That's wild. Speaking of California, and I actually, you're not crazy. I do a lot of work up and down, California. If you live out here in Long Beach, and there's a lot of people in the Central Valley who you would think would be naturally Kings supporters who were very, very, very into the Warriors last year in their playoff run. Couldn't have cared less about the Kings. So it's going to be an interesting split for sure when they're in Sacramento. The Lakers also kind of make an interesting conversation because people are we're kind of laying in wait, I think, to pounce on good prices for this team because they thought, hey, they can beat anyone. Like they got AD and LeBron. Like LeBron has done enough in the playoffs to prove the doubters wrong that I think he has earned, a decent amount of credit. And that said, they're up against a Grizzlies team that I think the market is a little low on. Grizzlies have kind of the right recipe, in my opinion, of speed and kind of very, just different ways they can attack you offensively, I think, to really frustrate the Lakers and really kind of put them in a spot where they have to choose, do we put our best defensive unit on the floor, which has huge limitations offensively, or do we try to kind of match, fire with fire and turn these games into shootouts and just hope we can execute more crisp, more effectively late in games. And so ultimately I came down with the Grizzlies were underpriced here. I'm pretty heavily staked Grizzlies. Should I be concerned at all that the Lakers are going to ruin my month of April?
Well, I would say this about the Lakers. It'll be good. It's the Shannon Sharp, Dylan Brooks series. We'll see what happens to them in game 3. The big thing about Memphis, no Steven Adams, no Brandon Clark. Look at the way Brandon Clark played last year against the Minnesota Timberwolves. He was really good. I just think, Ja Morant, Desmond Bane. How are the Lakers going to guard those guys on the perimeter? I know that LeBron's going to give you trouble, Anthony Davis, but I just don't see it for the Lakers. It's there for the taking because of some of the injuries that Memphis is dealing with right now, but I think the home court advantage, and I think Ja Morant is poised to have a really, really big series against the Lakers. And the other thing, too, about Anthony Davis, when he's playing well, you love it. You just know he's going to go up. He's going to come down. He's going to hold his ankle. You're going to think, oh, this is it. He's going to go to the locker room. He'll eventually come back. But I don't know. He's going to have to hold up over 7 games. That'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, I'm on the Grizzlies as well here. I have to say that I was very excited to see that replay of when LeBron was talking to JJJ, like, oh, he's not playing basketball. He's just talking trash, and then went and dunked on him. So there's going to be a lot of animosity between these two teams. Let's talk about the Suns and the Nuggets. Does the winner of that potential series ultimately win the West?
Yeah, I think, for the Phoenix Suns and playing the Clippers, if Paul George were available, that's different. I think they got a little lucky with the way things broke. Think about this guy, and I told you guys this. Kevin Durant, since November 27th, is 25-2 in games that he's played, and that includes 8-0 at the Phoenix Suns. So when you play the Phoenix Suns, your best defender's got to be on Kevin Durant. That means your second best defender is on Devin Booker, who's as good as any player in the league. Mm-hmm. So they are going to be a very, very difficult team to defend. Denver's in a tough spot because second-round series right now, it's shaping up where they can get the Phoenix Suns. And the one thing about those role players, I get it. They went to a conference finals, but that was in the bubble. Yeah. It's going to be a little bit different now. So let's see how Jokic performs. But more importantly, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray. I just find it hard to pick against Kevin Durant. I was at those games a couple of years ago when they played Milwaukee in the second round. James Harden went out, eventually came back, but was on one leg. Kyrie Irving got hurt, didn't come back. And Kevin Durant all by himself almost won that series. And he almost beat the team that went to the championship and won it. Like, don't ever underestimate Kevin Durant. Remove all the stuff that he does on Twitter. It's all nonsense. Kevin Durant, in terms of leadership, the dude goes out there, he plays hard, he rebounds, he defends, he's unselfish, and he makes shots. The guy does. He could fit in any team on the league and make them better, and he fits in with the Phoenix Suns. And when he plays, he hasn't made them better. He's made them unbeatable.
Yeah, I could not agree with you more. I think Kevin Durant is sort of the singular most important player in the playoffs any given year, just because his ISO game late in the series, it's unstoppable. Like, other than PJ Tucker, I can't think of a single defender who had a successful series stopping the ISO game that Durant had in a game 5, 6, 7 as you get later into a series. So I think that ultimately does make the Suns the rightful favorites. Although I'll tell you what, man, it's going to be tough to pick the Suns against the Nuggets if the Nuggets come through pretty cleanly, and the Suns, still, we haven't seen them kind of gel. I don't really know what we're going to get in terms of playoff Chris Paul. Like, I'm very, very, very lightly believe the Suns are going to win the West, but could be swung in the favor of the Nuggets pretty easily if the Nuggets come out, and because Nuggets could look pretty different. You take that bench off the court, all of a sudden that's a much more impressive team. So it'll be fascinating to see that series play out. Probably not going to have a bet on it, but slightly in Suns. Where are you at, Brad?
Yeah, the Suns just seem inevitable. Like, when I watch them play basketball, they didn't even have enough time to really gel, like, as a cohesive unit. They just go out there and play ball. I don't want to call it pickup basketball because, they're actually running sets, but it just feels like their offense is so fluid. And then when they're missing shots, when they get down in games, you just know at some point those shots are going to start dropping and they're just going to simply outscore you. I do get a little worried about them defensively. I haven't seen them lock down the way that I want them to as someone who would be betting on them. But yeah, the Suns are going to win the West, in my opinion. And a lot of that still has to do with the Denver Nuggets bench. Too many times this year, we've seen the Denver Nuggets go out there and go on 5 to 6 minute scoreless droughts because of that second unit not putting up enough production there.
Yeah. I think, Frank, given any matchup of Western Conference Finals, first choice is KD versus the Warriors?
I think that would be it. Absolutely. I don't think he's played there in front of a crowd since the Chase Center Open, which it's amazing. The other great stat too with Kevin Durant, he and LeBron James have not faced each other in a game since Christmas Day of 2018. And
that's crazy.
Think of from a football standpoint, like Joe Burrow and Patrick Mahomes played each other 3 times in like 12 months.
Yeah.
And Kevin Durant and LeBron James, the two best players in the league, have yet to play a game against each other since Christmas Day of 2018. That's pre-pandemic, boys. That's a long
That
was 100 years ago. Yeah. Amazing.
Awesome, Frank. For those who don't already follow you on social media, where can they find you, and what content would you like to highlight that you're currently working on?
You can see me at the Frank Isola, so you could be really nasty to me in my mentions, and then I'll be on SiriusXM NBA Radio every morning, 7 to 10 with Brian Scalabrine. I got some ESPN stuff I do around the horn PTI when they're kind enough to let me fill in for Tony Kornheiser, and then of course the net games on the Yes Network. We do pre and post game. Saturday though will be locally in New York. I know you guys are big on this, Channel 9, because I guess the Yankees have a game. And I guess that's a baseball team that a lot of people follow, so they get precedence on it.
Awesome, Frank. Thank you so much for your time. Have a wonderful weekend.
All right, boys. Take care. Good luck with the show.
Every season is draft season. Get your Roto-World Draft Guide bundle today and dominate your football, baseball, and basketball drafts. Packed with player profiles, rankings, projections. Order today and get 3 Roto-World Draft Guides for the price of 2. Plus, use promo code BARRY and save an extra 20% at checkout. Okay, so Drew, let's talk about our favorite bets. I'm going to be selfish and give 2, but I'm going to let you go first with yours.
So we teased it in talking about Kings Warriors. I would expect, again, the Warriors to take a little bit of a let's absorb your best shot and we'll adjust to it and try to come back. And, and I would, and that in particular would play into a slow start in game 1 in Sacramento, where you have an absolutely electric crowd that is going to have the highest energy of any of the crowds that I would expect all weekend long. Saturday night, Sacramento, they elevate the Kings to a first half win. That money line price is not high enough. It should be more in the -150 range. You can still get it at -120. I would lay points if you can sell out to like -0.5 and get a little bit better price there. I think that's a fun way. Interestingly enough, you get plus 0.5 at -125 at PointsBet right now. But I would lay points with the Kings. I think they're going to take a lead into the locker room. And at that point, we're going to see what kind of adjustments the Warriors make. The Warriors are a second half team anyway. The Warriors are a home team and not a road team anyway. The Warriors are reintegrating Wiggins, who's going to be out of basketball shape. I think Fox, Sabonis have nice matchups to get on the scoreboard early and often in this one. And I would think the Kings take a lead into the tunnel. So laying the points with the Kings in the first half, favorite bet of the weekend.
Let me ask you this question. So
Sure.
Steph Curry averaged 33.5 points against the Kings this season, but he only scored 25 in the match where they played on the road. Are you buying his point total at 29.5?
I think it's probably over or pass. This is going to be a high scoring game. I think the total, the market total right now is about 238. I don't disagree with that. I don't think it should be 240 or anything like that. I think 238 is fair. But I do think that in general, there are a lot of things that the Kings are going to be able to do in terms of stopping Warriors action. And there's going to, the responsibility is going to fall on Steph's head to create shots, and he can get some wide open looks from 3 in this one. The Kings play OKD, not super sound D when it comes to defending the pick and roll and things like that. So Curry's going to get his in this game.
Awesome. So I'm gonna get to my bets. I was battling a little stomach bug, so I didn't get a chance to give this out on VSiN like I had planned, but I'm gonna give it out here. Grizzlies to beat the Lakers. You talked about it. A lot of that has to do with the lack of lateral movement defensively. I think that this Lakers team at some point in this series is going to win a game, but at some point in this series, they're going to be tired. It's 2 inevitable things that are going to happen where there's a lot on LeBron, a lot on AD. Everyone else, they have to have massive step ups. And then one thing that I noticed in that Timberwolves game, and I've never been a huge D'Lo fan, was I think that Schroeder's better than D'Lo, but do you continue to give Schroeder the Russell minutes? I don't think they do that. And this has been the gripe of Lakers fans the entire season. Darvin Ham has put out some questionable rotations, some questionable lineups out there. So I think there's just a lot on the shoulders of the Lakers, where the Grizzlies go out there and they ball. They make basketball fun. They might start turning into the villains of the NBA, but they make it fun and enjoyable. And it's easy to win games when you're having fun out there.
That's a very fair point. And it's going to be an interesting series. I see people asking questions in the comments about the total. I'm curious about the total, honestly. Like it's going to go one way or the other, right? Like the Lakers are going to have to decide, are we going to turn this into a physical matchup where we're going to make it about, our defense, in which case I think that the Grizzlies' speed is going to hurt them, or are they going to try to match fire with fire and really just let turn this into a first team to 120 wins. But total currently sitting at 228.5. To me, I will make a prediction. This is going 10 points in either direction by the time we get to game 4. It's either we're going to see game 4 at 218 or 238, and it's going to come down to, what kind of decisions the Lakers make about their style of play.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think that a lot of the overs will be Grizzly games where they win by probably double digits.
Yeah, there's a correlation. I agree. There's a correlation. Yeah. If these games go over, I think the Grizzlies are winning and covering. All
right, one more bet. I just want to get this out because I thought this price was egregious. Aston Villa versus Newcastle. Newcastle plus 110 on the money line is my bet. Yeah, the Villains have won, 5 straight? But let's look at the Villains teams they beat. Everton, Crystal Palace, before the good Crystal Palace showed up. Bournemouth, Chelsea, Leicester City, Nottingham Forest. In those games, a lot of those times they had negative expected goal marks. Newcastle, best defensive in the Premier League. They've won 5 out of 5, 3 of them on the road. There's only about 4 or 5 teams in the Premier League who have positive XG versus XGA, and Newcastle's one of them. Yeah. At plus 110 with a pretty solid bill of health, I think this is a good spot for you to get some Newcastle money here. I would take Newcastle, probably both teams to score and win if you guys don't like plus 110, but I'm not greedy. So that's absolutely my best bet, soccer bet of the weekend.
I dig it, man. I'm getting starting to get a better feel for rubbing the hair for good luck. Starting to get a better feel for EPL, and I like that read a lot.
Yeah, we got to stay with plus money. We got to stay with teams in good form. And Drew, as always, man, this has been fun. I am so excited that we're almost at the weekend where I can just sit back, relax, and watch NBA. And for those guys who don't know, be sure to check out NBCSportsEdge.com for more information to help you out with your wagers. Thanks to those of you watching on our NBC Sports YouTube channel. If you're listening to us in podcast form, don't forget to subscribe and rate us. For Drew Dinsick, I'm Brad Thomas. Have a wonderful weekend.